Hello everybody, I'm Rowan6 with Rowan6 Entertainment, and welcome to a new series, a audiobook series of my fanfiction, The Dragon Hero Dovahkiin. The background art for this fanfiction is created by me. If you're interested in me doing art commissions for you, the link to my business Discord is down below. There's also a link to my community Discord, as well as the fanfiction link. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
Nezu sat in his office sipping his tea. He was waiting for the young man and his friends who had snuck into his office 3 days ago. Across from him sat Detective Tsukachi, one of his greatest allies in the Musudafu Police Department. Nezu knew his quirk would be crucial in this upcoming interview. "So what can you tell me before we get this interview started?" Detective Tsukachi asks with curiosity. Nezu was quite tight-lipped about this upcoming interview. He knew next to nothing about this boy except that he had some incredible tale that he needed his help to verify. Nezu looked at him with a blank stare for a couple of seconds before he sighed and then spoke. Apparently, this boy was hit by an unknown quirk by an unknown person, which sent him to another universe for 10 years. When he found his way back, he brought 2 of his companions from that world and he was 14 again. He then snuck into my office and bypassed all my security with his 3 companions using magic. All because my previous secretary refused to schedule an appointment with them because they are quirkless. Because they plan on attending UA next semester, they thought it would be best to be transparent with me, and they also asked for my help. Since his 2 companions are from a different universe, they're not on any record and not registered as a Japanese citizen. He also wanted me to help with some transactions since he brought a lot of stuff that he wanted to sell here," Nezu said seriously. If Tsukachi did not have a lie detector quirk, and Nezu wasn't so serious about the situation, he would have thought that this was one elaborate prank. "So it's going to be one of those weeks," Detective Tsukachi said as he rubbed his brow in an attempt to relieve an incoming headache. Then a thought crossed his mind that terrified him. What if he's working with All for One? Detective Tsukachi asked, terrified by this possibility, but Nezu just quirked an eyebrow at him before responding. "Indeed it is possible, but I doubt it. The fact that he's willing to be tested for a quirk factor, answer any of our questions as long as they're not of a personal nature, as well as showcase his, and his companions' capabilities. And the fact that they're telling such an outlandish story and being straight up front with me about it points in the opposite direction from All for One's MO," Nezu said, causing Detective Tsukachi to nod his head in agreement. "I also did research into the possible quirk that may have done this to the boy. Nothing is confirmed yet, but Void King was spotted in Mustafa a week ago," Nezu said, causing Tsukachi to raise an eyebrow. "I don't understand, doesn't his quirk disintegrate somebody on the atomic level?" Tsukachi asks, confused. "No, it doesn't. That is simply a common misconception. When he was first in prison, they did tests on his quirk, since it wasn't registered, and to make sure he didn't escape. Because of those tests, they were able to uncover the true nature of his quirk, which is officially named dimensional displacement, and it does exactly what the name implies. But before he could be properly contained, he escaped, and he's been on the run ever since," Nezu said, which made Tsukachi nod at the explanation. "This adds more credibility to the story. Maybe we should ask if he found anybody from Japan over there. The guy had a lot of victims, after all," Tsukachi said, which made Nezu nod his head in agreement. "There was also this. Nezu said as he pulled out a small binder and handed it to Tsukachi, which only made him raise an eyebrow in a questioning manner. Sighing, Nezu starts to explain. Pulling a photo out of the binder, he shows it to Tsukachi. When I asked him how I was going to contact him, he gave me a scroll. Nezu said, pointing to the photo before continuing. The scroll was made from the skin of a goat. It was made using traditional medieval tools and processes. But this is where it gets weird. The species of goat was extinct 200 years ago, before the dawn of quirks. If our tests are right, the goat that was used to make that parchment died around 20. The blood that was used for ink is from a non-quirk animal that does not exist on this planet, or better yet this dimension. Not to mention the strange energy readings that we got off of it. Nezu said, causing Tsukachi's eyes to go wide in shock. Why would he give you such a scroll? Tsukachi asked, shocked. He gave it to me to contact him. Apparently, it's what's called a spell scroll, and it had the spell called sending in it. It establishes a telepathic link between the messenger and the receiver for easy communication. What I was able to gather from him was that anyone could use spell scrolls without training. But with the downside of it only being one use. Which was confirmed after I used it. It simply just caught on fire and turned to ash. Power Loader is still studying the ash as we speak, but it looks like it's just plain old ash now. Nezu said as he sipped his tea. Tsukachi was amazed. He could only imagine if every hero had access to these spell scrolls, and he could also imagine if the villains had them. Now he knew why Nezu was so tight-lipped about this. If this wasn't handled properly, it could end in disaster. Where is the boy now? Tsukachi asked. He and his companions are currently with Recovery Girl, going through a very thorough quirk verification test. Eraserhead, Midnight, and Snipe are also down there making sure they don't try anything. They should be up here in a couple of minutes. Tsukachi relaxed a bit at hearing that. When the party arrived at his office, Nezu noticed the other girl that the boy had brought with him. He assumed she was the invisible one who couldn't show herself during their first meeting. She had long dark brown hair and brown eyes and was wearing a basic t-shirt and jeans. Her posture and the way she walked gave her the air of a veteran warrior or hero. As the party settled into their seats, Nezu began the meeting. Thank you three for coming and for your cooperation. Now, I think introductions are in order. By now I'm pretty sure you know Recovery Girl, Eraserhead, Midnight, and Snipe. Now I would like to introduce you to Detective Tsukachi from the Musudafu Police Department. He is a trustworthy associate of mine with a lie detector quirk, so he should easily confirm whether anything you say is true or not. Detective Tsukachi, this is Izuku, Midoriya, Lydia, and Serena. Now with introductions out of the way, Recovery Girl, do you mind giving us a full report? Nezu said with a professional air around him. Very well, I can confirm without a shadow of a doubt that these individuals are quirkless. Although their DNA is quite odd, especially Serena. Recovery Girl said. Do you three have any explanation about your DNA? Detective Tsukachi asked. There are many races that inhabit Nairn. One of the races is the Nords, which is Lydia's race. The majority of them inhabit Skyrim, which is a region that is set in the northern part of Tamriel, and where I was mostly based at. Serena is a Nord, vampire hybrid, which is kind of complicated to explain. Izuku said. And what about your DNA? Recovery Girl asked. Well, I do not know how that happened. But over there, I am what is called a Dovahkiin, which translates to Dragonborn. In short, it is a mortal with the blood and soul of a dragon. Since I never got a full DNA test until today, I do not know if I was born like that or if my DNA changed when I was sent there. Izuku said, trying to explain the best he could, which satisfied the detective and recovery girl. Anything else, recovery girl? Nezu asked. He needed to be sure that there was nothing strange with their DNA, but recovery girl just shook her head before responding. No, they are quite healthy, which is very surprising since they lived in a medieval society. Recovery girl says, a little confused. Since she was expecting several diseases or unhealed injuries. Which you can thank magic and alchemy for. Izuku said, smirking. Recovery girl just looked at him confused, which only made his smirk grow wider. Oh, he cannot wait for the opportunity to throw the medical field out the window with the simple cure-all potion. Seriously, that thing could cure any disease. He knew this because he had done extensive studies with said potion and its ingredients. Not to mention the art of restoration will put people with medical quirks like recovery girl out of a job. But Eraserhead shook his head at this before speaking up. You expect me to believe magic exists? That's illogical. Eraserhead said with clear exhaustion and condescension in his voice, causing Serena to roll her eyes at the man before responding. Oh look, the beggar speaks, but I'm quite surprised you draw the line when it comes to magic. But you do not draw it when it comes to dimensional travel or for me being a vampire hybrid. Serena said, causing Eraserhead's eyebrow to twitch and Midnight to giggle. Beggar, that's a new one, Shota. Midnight said, managing to giggle out between her sentence. Anyway, if you want a demonstration I could give you one. Serena said, with mischief in her eyes and a cocky smile that showed off her fangs. That's a brilliant idea. Eraserhead can use his quirk on you to prove that whatever you're doing is not a quirk. That way we can finally put it to rest and move on to another topic. Nezu said in a chipper tone and obviously quite eager for a demonstration. With a quick agreement from the two, Eraserhead activated his quirk on Serena. Then she just cast an invisibility spell that activated without any interruption. After a couple of seconds, she deactivated it. See, not a quirk. Serena said with a smile that showed off her fangs. Now that we have established the powers that these children possess are not a quirk, we can move on to what happened when young Izuku was in the other dimension. Do you mind giving us a general overview of your life in, what you call it, Skyrim, was it? Nezu asked with an obvious eagerness in his voice as he sipped his cup of tea. With a quick nod from the boy, he started explaining his time in Skyrim. The boy was quite the storyteller. The tale he weaved made it feel like you were right there beside him, experiencing his journey with him. Lydia and Serena also shared their points of view as well, which painted an even more detailed picture. If Detective Tsukachi wasn't there to verify everything he said was true, they wouldn't believe it. And when the tale finally came to an end, 3 hours had passed. Silence preceded the room for a couple of seconds before Midnight spoke up. Let me get this straight, you were sent to another dimension and became a badass dragon slayer who defeated a dragon that can devour worlds. Stopped a man's evil schemes who had 1,000 years of planning behind them and who was also Serena's father. Prevented an island from being conquered by a cult that went around brainwashing people, whose leader ended up being a dragonborn as well, who had the backing of the literal god of knowledge. Became a grandmaster wizard who ran a school for fucking witchcraft and wizardry, and you are actually 24 years old. Did I miss anything? Midnight said, exasperated. Like seriously, what the fuck? If it wasn't for the detective, she wouldn't believe a fucking word of it. A couple of things, but you got the important parts, Lydia said as she nodded her head. Great, this year I'm not going to have one problem child but 3 of them, Eraserhead said, who looked 5 times as tired as normal and completely done with life. But Serena's eyebrow twitched at being called a child. Hey beggar, who are you calling a child? I'm like 50 times more older than you, Serena said as she growled at Eraserhead in annoyance. Yes, but you're physically 14, and if I remember the story right, you were in stasis for the majority of those years, Eraserhead said, quipping back. Do you want to go? I will make you my next snack. But on second thought, if I drank any of your blood, I'd probably fall asleep from exhaustion. But I'm totally willing to risk it if you wish to try your luck, Serena said as she bared her fangs in anger. Deciding to defuse the situation, Nezu speaks up. Although, I would love to see a spar between you two. But now is not the time, especially when we have to discuss the things that young Izuku wishes to sell, Nezu said, successfully diffusing the situation as the two returned to their seats. Now, in our previous meeting, you said you have stuff you wish to sell that you gathered during your time in the other dimension, Nezu said, with Izuku nodding his head before speaking up. Yes, do you want me to show you? Izuku asked with a mischievous grin. Please do, Nezu said as he matched his grin. Then, with a wave of his hand and a burst of magical energy, a large reinforced metal chest appeared. When he opened it, it revealed that it was full of gold bricks and sorted gems, which made everybody in the office jaws to drop. You're fucking loaded. Is there anything else we need to know? Midnight asked as she shouted out in shock. Besides him having a couple hundred more of these chests with similar contents, not much, Serena said with a cocky fanged smile. This statement had the desired effect, as Midnight fainted after hearing it. Goddamn problem children, Eraserhead grumbled out at seeing his colleague and close friend unconscious on the ground.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!